Okay. All right, you're live right now. So you're gonna have to swear. Oh, I have extra copies. I'm gonna have to swear Yogi in when he gets here later then. We apologize for being late. I had a couple planning commission members who told me at the last minute that they weren't going to be able to be here. So we're waiting for one more to come. He said he'll be here by 7:30. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and swear in our new planning commission member, Justin. If you would mind coming up here. Justin applied for the planning commission member when Mr. Hallett let his term expire, and he's got other family obligations that he wants to take care of. So we're going to go ahead and swear Justin in, get him up on the dais. By that time, our other planning commission member should be here, and we'll get rolling. I need you to raise your right hand for me, please. Repeat after me. I, Justin Baker,
I, Justin Baker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
to support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
I will faithfully and impartially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent by me
as a member of the Town of Haymarket
as a member of the Town of Haymarket
Planning Commission,
Planning Commission,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Come
ma'am.
on up there, and you're going to go up there and sit right beside Mr. Gonzalez. At this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Larson to come up. He's got a couple recognitions that he would like to do, and then we'll proceed forward.
Welcome to everybody who could show up for the meeting. As you can see from the swearing in, we have one of the Planning Commission members whose last meeting was last month. I would like to recognize his participation as a planning member. So Rob Hallett, if you could come on up. We appreciate your service. Would like to give you this recognition plaque for your services to the town. And hope if you do have better opportunity later on in the future to come back in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And now with Mr. Baker coming into play here, I got a letter and a certificate here that I'd like to present to you. The letter says, congratulations, your application for the Planning Commission was reviewed by the Town Council, and you have been appointed to be a sitting member of for the term of July 1st to 2024 to June 30th, 2028. As the mayor of the town of Haymarket, I'd like to thank you for volunteering and accepting the civic responsibilities endowed to you as a sitting member. As a town citizen, I'm sure your goal is to do what is best for the town. In some cases, there will be differences of opinions requiring courage and conviction to make your decision. I support you and will encourage you to stand tall, because conflicts like these create the dialogue necessary to make the best decisions, making our town better. At the end of your term, I hope you reflect on your time volunteering for the town of Haymarket and feel your contributions have made a difference, bettering our town. I believe they will have. Again, thank you for volunteering and contributing to our town's success. So I'd like to give you this certificate for the term you're serving
Thank you very much.
and the letter I've read.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
If you want to come around
Yeah.
the diet, we'll get a glad hand shot here.
Picture of Rob too.
Yeah, Robert, if you come up too. Thank you so much. That's part, right?
Yeah, that's it. All right, so. Can you make the appointment? You do have a form for that. Mr. Wooten, we're waiting for another planning commission member So we now have our other planning commission member, but I also need to swear him in because his term expired on June the 30th as well. So we're gonna get him.
But there you go.
It's a recess appointment.
Get him up on the dais.
His full term is here. You and him will be together.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Good, because
There's a whole lot of stuff going on.
Fiscal year.
Okay.
Hey, how are you?
For me? Okay. Repeat after me. I, Pankaj Singla,
I, Pankaj Singla,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly
that
swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and partially discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Town of Haymarket Planning Commission
as a member of Planning Commission of Town of Haymarket,
according to the best of my abilities.
according to best of my
So help me
abilities.
God.
So help me God. Thanks so
Okay,
much.
you're in for another 4 years. Go on up there.
Thank you.
Gee.
All right. We've got a couple items on the, that we gotta take care of housekeeping. First of the year, we have to appoint a new chairperson and a new vice chair.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna sit in the second chair there.
This one?
Yep, right there. Alexander Biene, who is our liaison from the town council, has volunteered to be the chair for the next year. I just need a nomination and a motion. So we go from there.
So moved. I nominate Councilmember Alexander Biani as the chair of the Planning Commission for the next year.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, is there a motion to appoint Mr. Biene to the Planning Commission as the chair? So move.
So moved.
Did I have a second?
I have second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, the next item on the list is a vice chair, and our newly appointed Commissioner, Mr. Baker, has graciously said he would step up and be the vice chair. So are there a nomination for Mr. Baker to be the vice chair? No nomination?
So I would like to nominate Jerome Gonzalez as vice chair.
As a vice chair, okay. Any other nominations? Okay, is there a motion to appoint Jerome Gonzalez as a vice chair? for
I have the
planning
motion.
commission? And a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all any opposed? Okay, so Mr. Gonzalez, you're going to be the vice chair, so you're going to take over the meeting as soon as we get done with one other housekeeping is the ARB liaison. This is somebody who will, as Mr. Hallett did, went to the ARB meetings as the representatives from the Planning Commission. Mr. Baker has also volunteered to be the ARB liaison, so I need nomination for that.
I nominate Justin Baker to be the liaison to the ARB.
And any other nominations? Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Baker as the Planning Commission liaison to the ARB?
I have the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, all right, Mr. Gonzalez, take over.
Agenda.
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And do we pick up in the, where do we pick up in the agenda?
Pick up at the public hearing. So I can read the public notice into the record if that's
If you could, please.
okay. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission of the Town of Haymarket will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Haymarket Town Hall located at 15000 Washington Street, Suite 100, to consider a special use permit application for 15186 Washington Street. The special use permit application materials are available on the town's website, townofhaymarket.org, and for review at the town hall located at 15000 Washington Street between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. All meetings are open to the public, and the town of Haymarket does not discriminate on the basis of disability and omission of access to its programs and activities. Location of the public hearing is believed to be accessible to persons with disabilities. Any person's question of the accessibility of the facility can contact the town clerk at the above address. Okay,
Thank you. So now we go to open the public hearing for citizen comment.
First, let's have our town planner give a presentation, and then following that presentation, we'll have the applicant who has representatives here tonight give a 10-minute presentation or comment, and then we'll have the public comment from citizens. After that, we'll close it. Since we do have a new member, I'll just go through this real quick. After that, we'll close it, and then when it comes back up in the agenda items, the planning commission can address the staff as well as the applicant and ask any questions and have discussion at that point.
Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Commission. I'd like to start, since we're moving into the staff report. The staff report's located on packet page 6 of the agenda for tonight. As mentioned in the public hearing notice, this is a consideration of special use permit application number 2024-001 for an expansion of the Chick-fil-A drive-through section at 15186 Washington Street. This Chick-fil-A is part of the Quarles property and that property has been subdivided in the past. Chick-fil-A has been operating with an approved SUP for a drive-through since December 2015. The current design of the drive-through has 2 ordering lanes that eventually converge into 1 pickup lane. The proposed expansion will create the outermost, which I will call the rightmost order lane, and expand that into a bypass lane to bypass the pickup window and make pickup and ordering more efficient for Chick-fil-A's business. It'll eventually converge into 1 lane and then turn out into either Virginia National Bank's parking lot or back into Chick-fil-A's parking lot. The expanded lane will take away the landscaping buffer that separates Chick-fil-A's drive-through with the Virginia National Bank parking lot, and space will be allocated within Chick-fil-A's parcel lines for that expanded drive-through. Additionally, the Virginia National Bank and consequently Lifetime Smiles parking lot will also have rerouted traffic. It'll be a counterclockwise motion, one-way traffic for customers to enter and exit the premises via their cars. I wanted to bring into consideration now on packet page 7 and 8, the considerations that we use from our zoning ordinance in section 58-4.28 of the zoning ordinance matters to be considered for application review. We looked at the nature of the proposed use for the application. The applicant has provided a traffic impact study that you can find on page 19 of your packet. I also wanted to include in that impact study, which I'll mention in a second, about general traffic conditions on Washington Street. For now, with the proposed use, the traffic impact study states that there will be a net trip generation increase of 0, where the proposed alteration will just increase efficiency within the property and not affect the increase of traffic already in Haymarket. With that in mind, though, if the traffic is more efficient, we considered at town staff that if it's more efficient, then more vehicle traffic will flow through the Chick-fil-A site, even if traffic on Washington Street isn't mitigated. I reached out to our police chief, who gave us numbers for general trip traffic on Washington Street. General weekday 2-way traffic on Washington Street is about 20,000 cars a day, east and westbound. In terms of accidents and safety, there have been, and I'm talking about the intersection of Lee Berry Way and Washington Street. Since January 2024, there have only been 5 reported accidents along Washington Street, the public road. 4 of those 5 accidents have happened on the Lee Berry Way side instead of the Chick-fil-A side, just for the commission's context. Moving into the character of the area, the existing structures. We mentioned before, and this is also in consideration of section 58-19.13 about parking lot landscaping requirements. We did not accept that the landscaping buffer would be removed without remedial replacement of landscaping elsewhere on the site. We're currently looking for that still on the site plan amendment. The proposed landscape buffer will be replaced with, along with that, the installation of, rather than a curbed island, just a small like plastic buffers. With that in mind, there are safety issues if the landscaping buffer, 1, is removed and doesn't meet the zoning ordinance requirements, but 2, if the buffer is removed and there's not a solid buffer or barrier between Virginia National Bank parking lot and the drive-through space. Along with that, with the new Lifetime Smiles site plan that is almost under complete construction directly next to Chick-fil-A, there's an existing stormwater facility drain that serves that part of the Corals property. That part of the site still needs to be addressed to make sure that that is still going to be utilized. And if it's not, what will be remediated because of that. Along with this, the Lifetime Smiles dentist office main entry point will be significantly narrowed because of the one-way traffic and the expansion of the Chick-fil-A drive-through lane. And so those are the considerations given Virginia National Bank's property and Lifetime Smiles. We also considered, this is on point number 3 on packet page 9, the area's designation of the town's comprehensive plan, relevant text provisions of the plan. In our analysis with the comprehensive plan vision provided, we looked a lot at locations in this part of town should be accessible by foot traffic. The proposed expansion of the drive-through lane will cause one, more efficient traffic movement and potentially an increase in traffic, which, because it promotes further reliance of vehicle trips, it can cause further danger to pedestrians that will be utilizing that section of the Corals property. There are no issues on the direct site for off-street parking area requirements or space needed for loading and unloading of trucks. On item number 5 on packet page 10, as I've stated before, with the landscaping buffer being removed and the lack of a solid barrier replacing that, there could be an increase in traffic accidents between the properties, more pedestrian accidents between vehicles throughout all 3 lots. Given the above sections, and additionally on packet page 17, this is for when Chick-fil-A presents after me, and just for your consideration, packet pages 17 and 18 have this special use permit design plan and a tabulation or a design of what it would look like for a vehicle to enter and exit Virginia National Bank's parking spot. But given the conditions that I have presented and given our interpretation of the zoning ordinance, town staff recommend denial of special use permit number 2024-001 for this Chick-fil-A drive-through expansion. And with that, my staff report, we have from Chick-fil-A, Gideon Lee, from Bowler, who designed the site plan, Christina Hughes, and the property owner, Don Wooden, as well, to present.
Good evening, Commissioners. Christina Hughes with Buller. So as you stated, the proposal for this application is basically extending that second drive-through lane where there is already an order point to a second pickup point. This does result in a decrease in the adjacent drive lane width and delineators rather than a curved island with landscaping. There's a small amount of the island still at the exit of the drive-through, narrows so that there's no confusion in the exit, hopefully to prevent any accidents there. It basically just making sure there's only one lane out. There is some room opportunity there for some proposed landscaping. And then there's also a minor alteration to another entrance on the site shown to the north. And again, with the increase in some open space there, there's an opportunity for proposed landscaping. And also, as mentioned, this would not result in an increase of traffic to the site. The idea is not to generate new traffic, but to get the traffic already flowing to the site in and out more efficiently, decreasing the stacking in the drive-through lanes. Yeah, to the Chick-fil-A perspective.
Thanks so much for your time this evening. So I'm with JLL supporting Chick-fil-A. This is a national redevelopment rollout that really stemmed from COVID. Before COVID, our main sales channels were the traditional dine-in, where you had the single lane order point, single lane pickup at the window. But going into COVID and coming out, our digital technology and mobile technology has adapted quite, rapidly since 2020 and onward. And hence this program of redevelopment. We work under an umbrella called Strategic Reinvestment, where we go in and retrofit existing restaurants that don't have, the benefit of adding more real estate or, simply relocating. That's a separate program that we do have though. But with existing restaurants that we simply can't add or relocate the building, we come in and add capacity to those restaurants. And one of the main bottlenecks we've seen is at the pickup window, where you have a car sitting at the window. Let's say they have an $80 order and they're waiting, and then there's no possibility for the cars 3, 4 to bypass or escape that drive-through, because as you know today, it's a hard curb. So again, this is a national program that we come in and add that second lane. And what that does is it allows team members to what's called deliver upstream. So there's a Tormax door today. It's a door that slides open, so team members can hug the building. There's a 2-foot safety strip that they walk upstream. They can hand it to the third, fourth car. And then in this proposal, the third, fourth car can bypass the car sitting at the front. So if you think of a peak time, there could be potential for spillover, into the main drive aisles. And I'll defer to Don because he's here, most weeks, and into Chick-fil-A's parking lot. So if you visualize those cars into the queue of the drive-through rather than in the main drive aisles, we're adding capacity so that we're alleviating some of the ancillary issues that could come up. But we're here voluntarily to increase the capacity at the main. Currently, it's the main sales channel at Jason Ward's restaurant. Unfortunately, the operator couldn't make it tonight. But this would be a tremendous improvement for him. And just to touch on the traffic component, we're not adding any seats. We're not doing any interior modifications that would generate additional trips. Especially studied with our traffic engineers as well. And then simply put, when those cars pass the finish line more efficiently with the second lane, we're not adding additional volume into the site. That volume should be inside, interior to our property line today, if that makes sense. And then the only other thing I'll add is, we do have a 3-foot team member striping in between both lanes. So, in a peak time, there is an opportunity for cars to, get meals on that second lane as well. But it's primarily going to operate as a bypass lane for that second lane. And then one other thing I just thought of, today in front of the bank, it's a 2-way traffic, as you all know, and we're decreasing that width from, I believe it's 24 feet to now it's, is it 21 or 20? 21. To 21 feet. So we're effectively reducing that to a 21-foot full width drive aisle, but we're forcing traffic to go north across the bank. Because what that does today, it's a two-way traffic and it merges with our drive-through customers exiting. So that does, create a confluence point. But in our proposal, we would send customers going north in front of the bank and then customers exiting south. So we're trying to eliminate some of that, conflict kind of organically with our proposal. So I'll pause there. Don, anything else to add?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for you all coming tonight. So when kind of the genesis of this was, we started looking at and talking to all of the tenants that are affected here. And then we started looking at specifically the bank and how traffic entered and exited. Most of the flow of traffic for the bank is drive-through traffic. So they enter in on the two-way drive aisle, they go around the back of the bank and of course enter into the drive-through lanes. But the persons that will stop and park, they typically will in fact exit the same way as well. And as to what he was saying, we're trying to eliminate that cross traffic. If people are coming out, you can imagine we really are trying to discourage people turning left in front of the queuing Chick-fil-A drive-through traffic coming out. That's where this conflict point is. You all probably don't have the background here, but one of the things that we spoke to when we were doing the site plan for Crossroads Village is through Planning Commission and through the Town Council, there was a substantial discussion about how does traffic flow through Chick-fil-A and into the new Lidl parking lot, which is beside it. And everyone was concerned from Town Council and planning that they didn't want to bring more traffic into that single full motion turnout at Chick-fil-A, because that's where there is a stacking problem getting out. And again, you're now in conflict with cars coming in off of 55. So with this idea of just doing the single lane flow, we were hoping that more people would go and exit out the CVS exit point and go that way west, or go back through Crossroads and get through the main traffic signalization point. And then that would eliminate more traffic at that point of the main entry of Chick-fil-A, exiting out of that main entrance of Chick-fil-A. So we're trying to discourage them from actually coming into the Chick-fil-A parking field. On the, to finish my point, on the Lidl cross traffic coming through to Chick-fil-A, it was decided by Town Council at the time that they only wanted to have a one-way access point between Chick-fil-A and Lidl, and that access point actually only allowed Chick-fil-A traffic to exit into the Lidl parking field, but it wouldn't allow any Lidl traffic to come into the Chick-fil-A parking field. Again, for that purpose of trying to eliminate the bottlenecking that was going on in the Chick-fil-A parking lot. So this design that everybody's talking about really helps in all of that. And in talking to the bank and talking to J2 Engineering, which did the site plan for the dentist, everyone thought that that was the best route. The curbs and the drive aisles have already actually been built to accommodate that access. And if you're in the dentist parking lot, when they complete that, they'll still have full motion two-way access. So they can actually come out, either exit and enter in by CVS, that main drive aisle. They can either enter and exit, or they can also enter or exit that drive aisle that will be behind the bank. They just will need to make a right turn and go out instead of coming through the bank parking lot. So again, we were trying to avoid those conflicts. So Hopefully that helps give some clarification. And everybody from the tenant side that I'm aware of is fully on board with this plan. So I think that's a benefit to all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll call you back up in just a few minutes in our discussion. Vice Chair, if you would like to invite any citizens that might be here to speak at the public hearing.
Yes, I would now like to open the floor for any citizens who would like to speak on this application before the Planning Commission, if there are any in the audience. Okay, right, and not hearing none, and seeing none, I will go and close the public hearing. Yes, and now for the next section, we'll go for any regular citizens' time. Those who do not wish to speak for an application here this evening, would like to address the Planning Commission, is now free to do so. Hearing and seeing none, I will now move on to the next agenda item of the minute approval. And do I have a motion for approval of the minutes? From the last meeting, June 17th, our last Planning Commission meeting.
You have the motion? I have the motion to move the minutes.
You can second if you want to.
I can. I second the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Yes, you will now move to consideration of the SUP number 2024-001, the second drive-through at the Chick-fil-A.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We're going to open it up as town staff. I'm going to let planner Thomas Britt speak first and ask some questions. If the applicant doesn't mind coming back up to the podium, that way we can have a little bit more of an open dialogue with commission and the applicant. So I'll turn it over to Thomas.
Great, thank you, Emily. There was a lot of talk about with Virginia National Bank, with Lifetime Smiles Dentist Office, other members of the Quarles property about this being the most optimal rerouting of the traffic, where they have the counterclockwise motion on the bank parking lot, those kinds of things. Within the Chick-fil-A side itself, what other internal traffic mitigation measures will there be in place? An example being the exit point at Crossroads Village Boulevard, other places like that.
So internal to our project, we did, meet with you all earlier this year on making that two-way past the pickup window, merging down to that one. So we definitely heard your feedback. Now it's a physical one lane at the true finish line is what we call it, the exit. But really internal to the site when you enter from Washington, really nothing changes from a circulation pattern because, that is the field. So, what we will say though, with that traffic coming in, customers coming in, again, that second lane of bypass, that'll clear up a lot of the quote unquote peak time congestion and have that now in the queue versus in the drive aisle. So that's the biggest benefit to this project.
I'll add, I think, on the, let's call it the eastern rear corner of the site, I believe the proposal is to extend the landscaping buffer to the east and then make that a one-way exit only out of the rear portion of the Chick-fil-A. Again, trying to mitigate that traffic and that conflict in and out, but yet, try to open up that site and move people around it now as we've got signalization, right? The beauty of this whole thing is if we can get them down to signalization, then we have a lot more, less conflict. And so that's one of the mitigations, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Don, to follow up on that, I think one of my questions, it would probably be collective for all three of you. On page 2 of the permit plan, I noticed that there was not any additional internal traffic shown on here. So arrows, which direction you would go in the bank parking lot or the new dentist office parking lot. Is that something that could be shown? And then also possibly a new internal traffic mitigation plan put together to direct people back to Crossroads Village Boulevard's light? Because in hearing the initial presentation, I think if there were more internal traffic measures that are showing how to get to that new light and how that's the easiest route out, left
Mhm.
or right,
Yes.
that would be more beneficial for the users, for not only Chick-fil-A, the dentist, but also the bank being able to come out here. Because right now, if you turn it back to one way in the bank, and then they come out to that main road there that's shared with CVS, if they take that left, then they can no longer have an option to make a left on Washington Street. So I think if there's more internal measures to get them back to the signalization.
Such as like put up signage saying westbound,
Yes.
westbound traffic with arrows.
Yes. And then, the arrows on the
Eastbound.
pavement as well. Excuse me. I think that would start to help with some of the confusion on site.
Yes.
Since VDOT, this is long before you guys came in and built, but once VDOT came in, and you can see it on the bottom of page 20 of your packet in this map visual very well. When VDOT came in and put those medians on Washington Street, 2017 timeframe, I think we still have people learning that when they leave CVS, they can't take a left.
The left out.
And so, getting some more internal site traffic mitigation would be helpful. I hear what you're saying on that upper easternmost corner of the Chick-fil-A site, restricting it to one way out. I would be curious long-term what Chick-fil-A would think if we're really pushing people through the signalization and down the boulevard. Does that then restrict users from the townhouse development to make a left-hand turn into the site? And you
on
don't
the
have to
rear-
answer that tonight.
On the rear access?
Yeah,
Yes, it would.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I
They'd
just
have to go to the
wonder-
main boulevard and
Make
then
a
go right
Mhm.
and then go right into the
Into-
Chick-fil-A's parking lot. But again,
Okay.
if you think about that movement, it's at least getting everybody going in the same direction.
Herding cats. I have to say, town hall staff is quite good supporters of the Chick-fil-A,
Well,
and
thank
we're
you.
very impressed at how quick it moves. So
Yes.
we hear what you're saying, but we don't ever see a lot of these delays. So we do hear that, what you're trying to do, it has significantly improved since COVID. We've not seen the redirect of the drive-through that was happening during COVID, when it was kind of like a makeshift drive-through lane
Right.
in the parking lot. So it's definitely significantly better. I think one other question I would have to clarify, I think in one of our previous meetings, this bypass lane was supposed to be for mobile orders only. Is that still,
So mobile
or did you get
orders,
away from that?
including bypass. So,
Okay.
Mobile
You know,
and
It's not
bypass.
mobile throughput,
right. So to go back to your question, I think it's a two-part question.
Yeah.
So, sorry, thanks. On that second lane, I hear what you're saying. Jason's doing a great job of making it
Phenomenal.
flow like after COVID. But what we're doing, again, is increasing capacity even for future growth.
Okay.
Chick-fil-A is always developing, and that mobile through is what it's called. That's coming down the pipe. But the operator can run it multiple ways. Currently speaking, that he would benefit from a bypass, but then, the mobile through could be in his favor as well when he is active on that. That's another new technology that we're also have been rolled out and will be rolling out to, a few select stores, including
Okay.
this one. Yeah, just back to the second lane point, again, we're planning for the future really, because there's always innovations happening at Chick-fil-A corporate. And, if we have the real estate now, which, we're working closely with Don to do so, I mean, we're going to act on it.
Okay.
And I'd state that that's why it's critical that that 3-foot striping is there too, for the
Okay.
future to allow, safety of the team members between cars in the
Absolutely.
second lane. So we want to just, I guess, emphasize the importance of that, because that 3 feet can be, minimized if you wanted the two-way, but it's so important. That's why we didn't, take it out, just to show two-way flow through the bank.
Okay. And can you guys speak to why delineators versus a hardscape curb?
Sure, the width. There's not much width there. Like I said, 24 would be the minimum that you want to see for two-way. We're down to 21, and so that's why we are now showing just one-way travel there. And if you were to add the curbed island, then you're just reducing either the width of the drive-through lanes or the width of that travel lane, which is obviously not ideal with perpendicular parking adjacent to the travel aisle.
Humor me. If you add the curb, how narrow does that travel lane get for the bank?
At a minimum, if we're going to do a curbed island, it should probably be at least 2 feet. So
Okay.
you'd lose another 2, so that would be 19.
19.
And we did some, vehicle movements, obviously just through technology, AutoCAD turn through there. And with perpendicular parking, if you reduce that any further, while 21 seems a lot, it's really hard to get people in and out of those parking spaces if we reduce it. And then at that point, a 2 foot, it would probably just be like a concrete island, which is typically an eyesore as well. But I understand what you're saying. It could prohibit, crossing of vehicles there.
I think it's
Okay.
less of a
The
tripping
tire
hazard.
stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you had the curb on the outside of it, we're down to 19 feet in the travel lane there for the bank. Was it, or could it be considered to have, like diagonal parking at the bank?
Parallel.
Angled.
Angled, thank you.
45
I
degrees.
was looking for the right word. Is
was-
that an option to modify that curbing right against the bank and do angled parking there instead?
Yeah, the depth of that angled parking, I'll let Christina speak to it. I'll stay in my swim lane, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm not an engineer, so that's why I'm
No,
asking
it's
these
fine.
questions.
When you go to angled parking spaces, the depth from the curb to the end of the parking striping is actually longer than it is if
Okay.
it's perpendicular. And while the drive aisle width can be narrower, you also typically lose parking spaces when you go to angle. So while we are impacting the bank's parcel, we're trying to do so minimally and not reduce their parking as well. So if we had more width overall, angled would probably be the way to go, but you can see we're looking at basically minimum widths through everything.
Okay. Commission, please feel free to jump in with any questions you might have.
With the angle parking combination, can we not restrict the two-way lanes to one-way lane, that 19 feet to whatever lower number, having 12 feet of lane with the angle parking, that combination?
When you go to, when you get narrower than 19, the people that are pulling in to park into the bank, they have a hard time then backing out of that space without impacting the Chick-fil-A drive-through lanes back behind them. So that movement becomes difficult.
I understand, but with the angle parking, it won't be.
Correct. But then, as she said, when you do angled parking instead of a standard, what is it, 18?
I think there's showing
Standard?
18 feet, right?
When you go to a 45, it goes to,
Typically we do 60 because I think it only goes down to about 21, which
Mhm.
is less. Anything more in the angle is just they're gonna lose a lot of parking if you go down to less than 60.
so 60, okay. And then what it would
So it'd be
be,
about 21.
21.
So then your drive aisle is down to 18 without the curbed island.
so you
with the
could do
one-way.
60 degree at 21 feet depth, and then you'd be down to 18.
Mhm.
Then we
18
would
feet.
still lose a lot of the bank parking, which.
Right.
Is it
we've
like
studied
losing
with that.
one parking, two parking?
It's at least 2 or
It's at
3
least
because
2.
there are ADA stalls at the southernmost portion
Mhm.
that we need to be very meticulous or, detailed on, which affects that whole entire row going north.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out.
I know Chick-fil-A is trying to grow, and I'm trying to look at these plans and see, adding that second drive-through. Is there a way that, like, Gideon, you were saying that finish line, does it have to be there, or could it be moved further where it merges at the first dual lane to not, it couldn't be
I
put,
guess, I mean, the finish line is where the cars exit.
yes,
And, meet up with the east-west cross connector.
yes.
So if I understand your question correctly, like, are you saying the merge point, if that can be moved up?
Actually, like, if that's where they could get their orders, because you do have that 3-foot kind of pathway.
Right.
So could people, instead of making the finish line all the way up here, could people get their food and at that dual point kind of exit there
Yeah,
and
sorry.
avoid?
Sorry if I misspoke. I guess I understand it to be the finish line, but that may not be what you guys interpret it as. So
Okay.
finish line means when cars exit the drive-through completely, not when they get their food.
Gotcha.
So they'll get their food at the window.
Okay,
And then, they can bypass at the window. So,
gotcha.
sorry if I confused you. That's just terminology that
Okay.
Chick-fil-A uses. So.
Gotcha. I was trying to figure, okay, okay.
You wouldn't want them to exit immediately, because if they went in, then they'd be opposing on the one-way drive aisle. So
Yes. Okay.
Thanks for the question.
Can we reduce the width between both drive-through lanes?
The drive-through lanes, the minimum is 9 feet. And
Median width between two drive-through lanes.
we cannot, that's a 3-foot. So we have a 2-foot hugging the building. And then we have 9 feet. That's the most minimum we can
Right.
go. And then 3 foot is where the team members can walk
Okay.
upstream. And we initially had that at 2 feet about 2 years ago. But, through QA/QC at Chick-fil-A, they needed it to be 3 feet. And that's something we cannot sacrifice, unfortunately. So right now, we looked at minimizing everything. And this is like the most minimum we can go. So it's 9.392 is the play.
ideally, they would be wider.
Right. If you have a Ford F-150 or the like, it's difficult to maneuver.
Yeah.
Suburban.
So, exactly.
With these, does Chick-fil-A like have a, like, how can I put it? Like a prospected number of where it's going to grow by adding this second, or is it just
No.
kind of you put in your data and?
Right. So we don't do any projections to project what that bypass would do as far as like sales growth or lift is what we call it. But, with this bypass, what we're doing, again, I keep repeating myself, I apologize, but increasing the capacity, not necessarily increasing like the amount of volume that goes through the store, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're hopefully reducing the time for the customer.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. Ideally, they can get things through in the sequence they want. So like the queue stays at a more desirable length, so the vehicles are getting through most efficiently, and that reduces the stacking, which obviously is usually people's largest concern, because when that gets further than the drive-through lanes, it's impacting circulation through the entirety of the site. So reducing that is critical.
You guys have been frequenting it. So when I go there, which frankly I don't go there much because it's too crowded. But when I do go there,
It's honesty hour.
when I do go there, they have the orange cones up. And the reason is they've created mock-up stacking lanes in the parking field. So all that parking that they have, they're not using or can't use because they're using that for stacking. With this whole concept, the goal would be to reduce dramatically or eliminate that mocked stacking with the orange cones, because your throughput is much more predictive, because they're saying, hey, go around that car, pick up your mobile order, go around that car, your order's ready, go around that car, those kind of things. So that's really what the whole goal of that is right now.
Right. And I just grabbed dinner there, and I was sitting at the window, and nobody could bypass me. I had a $15 order, which isn't that big, but it just goes to show a single lane of the pickup. It's
It was $15 with employee discount?
I don't get it for you.
What?
To clarify what you would ideally see, sorry, just to make sure we understand too, would essentially that basically you would prefer they're funneled either to the rear exit of the site or to the Washington Street entrance, full access entrance directly in front of their site. You're trying to push traffic towards those rather than going towards the pharmacy where they may make a left where they can't make a left.
I'm fine if they go anywhere. I just want them to have better.
She wants them to know where they are going.
I want them to know.
They want to know, you want them to know where they may end up. Right.
Like, go back to John Boulevard, we're good. But you still don't see a lot of people utilize that. I know it's still under construction, it's still new. But I think specifically, and I best visually see it on this page.
Okay.
Is just where we don't see any more arrows of, okay, it's one lane, but then where?
Right,
So
okay.
I think an expansion of the internal traffic flow just being visualized and shown on the site plan.
Okay.
When you go through the bank, you go one lane, you park, come out, you're going behind the building. Having some signage there to go back to the
Right.
boulevard to take your left or your right.
Exit to
Dentist office.
wherever.
Exactly, dentist office, same thing. I know there that CVS, the way their drive-through is designed, I believe it's three full lanes, 2 at least. And then you have that odd median. It can get a little confusing if you're not familiar with that part
Mhm.
of where, am I left, am I right, am I oncoming traffic or not?
Right.
There is not a stop sign there, so I know some people will come out of the Chick-fil-A drive-through, take a right, go in front of the bank, and then they'll immediately want to take a left, but there are people who come up by the pharmacy there, so just better internal traffic visualization.
Okay.
And I will say, we'll work with Don to come up with a plan of attack. But I will say, our scope really, that drive aisle between Chick-fil-A and the bank, that's all we're really altering. It's a 2-way today and we're just making it a 1-way north. So in the grand scheme of things, like this project shouldn't impact or negatively impact, learned behavior, new behavior of customers. But we'll work with Don's team to, better clarify those.
She's really wanting to clean it up.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree. I mean, I think when you get on the back side of the bank and now the dentist, people that aren't familiar with the community, a sign would be nice there that says, eastbound this way, westbound this way.
And right when you leave the Chick-fil-A, I think it's still there. When you're sitting at the stop bar, right in front of you, it should say like westbound, 66
Mhm.
right, 15 right.
Yep.
55 left. So, that small signs there, I think more throughout. I think it's a lot more helpful now that Don and team own the whole end of town there. To make it happen and get that. The other thing, speaking of prettying it up, I want to talk about the landscaping, where it's going.
Yeah.
What options, we hate to see the loss of that buffer. It does cause some concern in regards to, backing up. Next thing you know, you're hitting a delineator, you're hitting the edge of somebody's car. I know that's unlikely, but at least with that landscaping buffer, we did have something between uses.
Right. There is obviously not the width for the full buffer, but there is some proposed curbing with this application that does allow for some additional plantings at the exit. There could be some placed site distance permitting shrubs probably at the exit on both sides of the cut through for the crosswalk. And like we said, where the access is being narrowed down to the northeast, there's room for more plantings.
Adding more.
And I understand that is not, it wouldn't be a buffer yard, but in terms of plantings for the site, I know Chick-fil-A is more than happy, to recoup them elsewhere on the site where possible.
basically preserving the green space.
Right.
Yeah.
Commission, you guys have any additional questions at this time?
Yes, just a few. And again, thank you again for coming out tonight for your presentation. I will say and review these documents, I appreciated at this point what it appeared to be a decent technical completeness. There weren't, with what's been presented thus far, there weren't any issues that I noted. So I thank you for that part. The one question I had based on your presentation, of course, and thank you for that here, is I guess it's both for Bowler related to the traffic study, and I'm sorry that the Wells and Associates representative isn't here, but perhaps you can speak to it, and also for the Chick-fil-A operator there. You had mentioned that you're in the process of expanding and doing these kind of improvements or changes at other Chick-fil-A's. One of the things I noted in the traffic impact study there under the trip generation table was looking at other comparable Chick-fil-A's in the area. And I couldn't help but notice, but they all seem to operate in the same manner as the current existing Chick-fil-A here in town, with the 2 lanes to order and then the 1 lane drive to pick up your food and that there. So I was just curious where this expansion has been done in other places, local, just as an example. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Jason Ward, he's the operator here, and he's also the operator at Virginia Gateway. So we actually have 3 current projects in Prince William County that we're getting ready to start the long path of entitlements. That one being Lake Ridge, Woodbridge, and Virginia Gateway. Those are the names of the restaurants. I believe all of them should be getting a bypass. Christina, correct me if I'm wrong. And Lake Ridge already has a dual lane fulfillment is what it's called, where you have 2 full lanes all the way around the building. So those are 3 in the immediate area. And I'm sure we can pull a ton in our database to reflect.
Yeah, I can speak to some recently constructed. They may not be super close, but in adjacent jurisdictions. So the city of Manassas is one, it's Signal Hill. That was a full reinvestment project completed a couple years ago. So 2 lanes all the way through now. In the city of Fredericksburg, there's one in Central Park as well. The town of Culpeper has one where they've done the same thing. And construction will be started in the town of Warrenton in just a few weeks. They had 2 order points very similar to this, knocked down to 1, and they just got their SUP approval and site plan approval for 2 all the way through for that one. So lots of these projects in the adjacent area, either coming to construction or just wrapped up.
Did you guys by chance engineer the Virginia Gateway one?
We're engineering the new project where it will be 2 lanes all the way through.
Is that a new site location or?
It's on the existing site. Mhm.
Could you kind of explain, if possible, like how that would operate? Because I think most of us are probably pretty familiar with that Chick-fil-A as well.
It would operate pretty similarly. That's probably the tightest one we're working on right now, as the order point for that one is really close to the entrance. For that one, we're moving the order point. It's north of the site, so further in to allow the required stocking for both lanes, and then I'll have 2 lanes all the way through. That has a lot of parking reconfiguration towards the drive-through exit to isolate that drive-through exit similar to this. So 2 at the pickup merging, and then we try to make sure that only 1 lane is exiting so that there's no confusion with 2 cars leaving the drive-through at the same time.
Okay, so that one, because they have a little bit more land all the way around it, they can reconfigure the parking.
Yeah.
Versus like this one's constricted with a neighboring property.
Yeah, those ones have landscaping all the way around, and to be fair, they all have their intricacies. That one has, a moving of a dumpster, shift reduction in buffers as well. But those ones should be coming, they're into the Prince William County planning for review.
And real estate did a great job pre-COVID on selecting sites where it's dine-in only. So they scooted it as much as they could to the property line. So it's a single lane, maximize the parking field. Now, with our latest prototype, we will never do that. We'll always leave with 2 lanes all the way around the building, and hopefully separating the parking field from, the drive-through. But unfortunately for our existing restaurants, the blessing and the curse is we're, given the cars that were dealt. So that's where
This one is in pretty good shape, though, I will say, because the distance from pickup to the order point is pretty close to the ideal, even by newer standards. So the timing of the sequencing of order to pickup, it is pretty close to the ideal here.
And I can also appreciate and understand the need for bypass lanes and drive-throughs. I mean, that's common across the board these days. So I do appreciate that. I wanted to jump back too about the kind of mobile ordering option, I guess, for that secondary lane. So in theory, if someone has a mobile order, they'd come, they drive around, they're in that outer lane. Wouldn't there still be a pause for them to get their order at some point, whether in the order area or further downstream? In which case, isn't it theoretically possible that both lanes could be blocked at that point? I was just curious if you could speak to that a little further, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that we're working through at select locations. That's a great question that comes up. So when mobile orders comes in, they check in with the people with the iPads, or they ordered offsite, and then they have geofencing. Or once they're on site, their orders are ready to pick up. They'll go quickly on the outer lane, and then team members will also then deliver upstream. But then to your point, if there are cars stuck at the window, whether it's mobile and pickup, we do have the benefit of flexibility of pulling that, whether it's car 1 or 2 forward. We have that extra, leeway. That's why we don't merge it right after our pickup point. And that's why we, lead with extending the 2 lanes all the way to the exit. So we have that flexibility of pulling cars forward, whether it's on the mobile side or the true drive-through side, if that makes sense.
I don't know if you guys would have this information, but Dawn, is there any conversation to how many users are at the bank daily? How many are really parking and going in, customers?
I don't have actual car counts, but I've had calls as a courtesy with the branch manager, and then also with the CFO of the corporate bank. We've had probably 2 calls with them discussing different optionality. And they're the ones that said, look, most of our traffic is coming through just as you're proposing. Even if you did a one-way, that's how most of our traffic flows. And it would be less disruptive if we did it this way than another alternative way. We talked about reducing their landscape buffer up against their building, and then relocating their sidewalks closer to their bank, and then shifting the parking again closer to the bank to get that additional number of feet to continue to keep a 2-way back and forth. And they're the ones that came back and said, no, we like this alternative best. It's less disruptive. It's pretty much how all of our traffic flows. So we just kind of dropped that idea, but it is one that works. It's just going to be disruptive for the bank.
Okay, thank you for speaking to that.
Yeah.
So,
No, go ahead.
okay. So, for these 2 drive-through lanes, so at what point in the drive-through lanes they can change the lanes? So
Meaning
are
like
they-
when you order and then when you pick up your food.
But they can change the lane anytime in between, or
So for bypass, what we call a bypass play is that inner lane would be your main lane. So everyone would line up, like order like you would today, 2 merging down to 1 right after you order with the team members on the iPads.
Mhm.
And then once you merge down to that 1, the bypass truly acts as an emergency bypass for cars stuck at the window. And then cars 2, 3, 4, they want to bypass car 1. So technically speaking, for a bypass play, that should not be free flow traffic. It should be free and clear for bypass play.
even for car 2, 3, and 4, like if
Well,
one car,
if car 1 is sitting there with a $50 order,
Right,
and
right.
cars 2 and 3 got their food with team
Right.
members delivering upstream.
They'll tell them just to go ahead and go out.
Exactly.
So the team member will tell them.
Right.
You're free to go around.
Exactly. Yep.
Car one
And
will go
they'll
forward.
like notify their team members, hey, we're sending this car around the car stuck at the window, because obviously they don't have their food yet. So
Okay.
the reason for my question is the safety of the employees.
Right.
If they're allowed to change the lanes at any point of time, then it's a
Right.
safety concern for the
Right.
employees.
Exactly.
So that was the reason for me asking this question. And then regarding the angle parking, I just checked. You're gonna lose 2 parking spots with 60-degree angle parking. I think so that depends upon if you can get the data for how many parking spaces are being used. This would be going to best safety option for everybody having an angle parking. You need 3 feet extra, but then you can restrict people to have only one-way movement by having narrower lane, and then having even a buffer between bank cars and the drive-through. So that can help answer the safety issues and the buffer issues from that staff has raised at that location. So it's matter of losing 2 parking spots.
And we'd have to modify the end cap islands as well, because when we did look at it, it was rather disruptive, like to the bank. And to Don's earlier point, the flow of traffic today, even with that 21-foot backup, was sufficient and the best route forward for the bank. And I won't speak for them on behalf of Don, but we did present to them, the two-way traffic with perpendicular and angled spaces, with the sidewalk even shifted closer to the building as well. Those options are, again, rather disruptive. So what we're trying to propose on the Chick-fil-A side, we're trying to limit as much as we can as far as disturbance, and keep the bank open as and don't touch that side.
Got it. But the turn lanes that you're showing is for the perpendicular parking, but as soon as you have angle parking, you need less space to make a turn or get back to the lane.
Yeah, in terms of the drive aisle, when you go to a 60-degree angle, you need less drive aisle to make that reverse. The issue is, I think, is losing those spaces. And I'm not sure where those ADA handicap spaces are in terms of that. So those would have to be looked at. And as you alluded to, you'd have to, add some additional curb and so forth in there. But that is an option. I'm not sure it would meet zoning. It's a whole different discussion, I guess. When you start reducing parking, then all of a sudden you don't meet your zoning.
Right.
We would have to verify that if you have parking reduction on the bank property, that they still maintain all of the required parking, as well as the Chick-fil-A maintained all of theirs. It looks as though the 2 handicap spaces are closest to Washington Street on that section of parking there.
As soon as you come in.
Yes, as soon as you come in. I don't know, again, this is something we'd have to look at zoning as well as ADA requirements. I don't know if you could move the handicap into the front area of parking in front of the bank, because I don't know what that footage is from that space to the front door. So that would definitely be a further zoning discussion. Thomas and I can certainly follow up with the team here tonight and talk through that later on this week, if that's something the commission wishes to see visually. But that would be a zoning discussion that we would need to look into.
The other thing I'll note that in relocating ADA spaces, a grading discussion comes in. And while it doesn't look it, we have gone a step further and started grading and site plan for this. And in order to keep, a decent cross slope on this, we've lost that curved island between. And so we're looking at some fairly steep slopes, steep in terms of parking, exceeding 5%. But yes, if we were to scoot the ADA up, because if we angled, we would eat into that area that is currently ADA. So that's compliant at less than 2%. If you angle them, then you're shifting the ADA up into an area that's not currently, compliant.
Got it.
And I had one other question related to, I guess you've spoken, you've shared with the bank and of course with the Dental Smiles, I presume, the way coming in. And I do note in our packet, we do have an email indicating that it would be fine for operations and it would not be a major detrimental effect to the bank and the Dental Smiles facility. I was just curious, is it possible we could get letters from them directly to kind of sign off to say, we've looked at this and we think it's a good viable option? Is that possible? to do, the tenants themselves?
I can't speak to either of them. We've spoken to both of them and had those discussions, so it's not, how do I put it? They don't have control of their site, so it's really at our discretion, but they both verbally said that. So in fact, I think to the point on the dentist, they've already engineered it as such. So everything that's been approved for the dentist site is with that one lane in mind. They've already moved their islands. They've already moved everything that's necessary. So of course they're on board, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. So, but in terms of the bank, we could ask.
Thank you. And thank you for that clarification too. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think so. Chick-fil-A has a good information. Next time, if you can provide that information, like how much increase in cars you saw with the 2 lanes, because IT is not having enough data to see how many trips are being generated with 1 drive-through and 2 drive-throughs. But maybe for your data that Chick-fil-A keeps, maybe you can compare the data, how much increase they see in the
So
traffic.
we can pull data after the improvements have been installed and run trip generations that way. But as far as like sales data and volume, that we can't share that type of
I
proprietary.
just need the number of cars, maybe it can be the term of orders via drive-through. If you can get that information, maybe.
And
Not the
we'll try
amount.
to provide what we can, but
Okay.
we'll check with Chick-fil-A legal on what we can provide on a
Got
public
it.
setting. 'Cause again, it's proprietary as far as like true data to that specific restaurant. If that makes sense.
Sounds good.
But I believe you guys have already provided that it's a zero gain, correct?
Right, right.
So
Right.
they're already saying it's a zero net gain.
Right, but I think so you're limited by how much traffic you have. If you have less traffic, or if you reduce the queues at your restaurant, you'll have more people coming during the peak hours. Even though I understand that the data you are using from IT is limited, like they have limited parameters to show what will be the change in trips with 2 lanes. Just to give a brief, I'm a transportation engineer, so that's why I understand the trips more.
Yeah, I just told him we can check because there are Wells and Associates use 5 local existing Chick-fil-A restaurants. So we can see if he can share a little more
Right.
information as to which of those has to all the way through.
Mhm.
And if so,
And what's the change
if
they saw?
Chick-fil-A will allow us
Yeah.
to share what the change was. Right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? No. Okay. What I would propose is, so Thomas and I have taken some pretty thorough notes on our discussion here tonight. Commissioners, if there's anything else that you want to add, please definitely let us know. But it sounds like we should come back together sometime this week and have a discussion regarding the further discussion of the internal traffic mitigation measures, how we can visualize and show that, and what could be done in addition to increase it. We can talk about the landscaping and look to see that possibly on an updated plan that comes back. We can talk some additionally about the curbing option and what that width there looks like. Hopefully we could visualize that, and then we'll address the commissioner's concerns. And then we would bring it back, hopefully, I think timing wise, August's meeting. Would that work for you guys?
Defer to August.
Would that work? And we are, later tonight, we are talking about changing the date of our August meeting. We're proposing the second Tuesday. Is that correct? Let me pull up that date and tell you what it would be real quick. So that would put us at August 13th. So that's just, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks out from today. And then in case anybody's traveling a far distance, we can also talk about Zooming you in and doing a teleconference as well. Is that right? Okay. So if you guys will, if the commission doesn't have anything else, good.
None.
If you guys will send Thomas an email, and we'll schedule a time this week to meet online and go from there.
Thank
Do you
you.
guys have any other questions for us?
No,
or-
thank you all.
Okay.
Very much.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
guys so
Good to
much
meet
for
you.
coming out, and thank you for your patience in the
Yeah, thank you.
beginning.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
You
Thank you.
Thank you
too.
then.
Thank you.
All right, and with that part concluded, we'll now turn to the next agenda item, the 1 mile review for the SCP for the Walmart pickup expansion.
Yes, I know we have a new commissioner on our commission. Just to briefly explain, we talked about this before the meeting as well, but every Prince William County application that is a special use permit or rezoning application goes before our commission as part of our 1 mile review. We're offered a chance to provide public comment for that. That's the purpose of this next agenda item. So the Walmart excuse me while I pull up the project narrative. I'm on packet page 31 for your reference as well. But the Walmart at 6530 Trading Square, they currently have on the east side of their current building a pickup area, a park-in pickup area. This SCP proposal is an expansion of that pickup area. So what they would do, and you'll see this on packet page, excuse me, one moment. You'll see this on packet page 41 and 42, the design plan for this new pickup area. What Walmart is proposing is just an expansion of the building footprint of approximately 4,625 square feet. They would be using that, and this is on the west side of the Walmart rather than the east side of Walmart, still a trading square address. It would be used as a staging area for customer merchandise pickup, hence pickup expansion. They would have the same mode of process of parking. Store associates would deliver the pre-purchase merchandise to their cars. It's just a larger capacity area at a less trafficked area of Walmart. Because the movement of this will then keep it from, because we know how bad that right turn lane into Trading Square gets from the exit point from James Madison Highway. One thing to note is that the overall parking provided on the property, it will be reduced from 534 parking spaces to 512 parking spaces to accommodate for this new staging area. Given that reduction in parking from Prince William County's transportation analysis, there's no additional traffic impact despite that reduction in parking space. That's at least for the VDOT perspective. Now, within the internal site, we just had this discussion with Chick-fil-A as well. As for the internal site, there may be some other differences noted, but as far as general traffic impact for that area, there's no major impact. We received this application about a week and a half ago. Like, our comments aren't due until mid-August, but I wanted to bring this to the commission as soon as I could, just for your point of reference, and that way I'm not delivering comments from you a day after it's brought to the commission with the due date. So currently, given the county's analysis of this SUP and the narrative provided, I'm still creating a comment list. And now, if you as commission have any additional comments, please give them.
I just thinking, are there different signs for pickup location, like Walmart pickup location, go ahead, don't use, okay. If they can use those signs on not the Washington Street, Route 55, right? So that people are not using the first entrance and always using the second entrance. That would be helpful from traffic perspective. Because once they use the first entrance, then they have to go from along the frontage of Walmart and having traffic issues.
Especially if you're used to that.
Right.
And you cannot go behind. You can't go behind. There's no access.
They're closing
secured
it?
off
Okay.
for just their delivery trucks only. So
Got it.
that's a good point. We'll make sure to include that.
Because it seems like they are like increasing the pickup locations by 3 times, kind of. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe they are seeing a trend, and maybe that's a future with more people using that option.
Mr. Britt, did they say how many parking spots or how many pickup lanes they would have or they're trying to add?
Let me look back in the application just real quick. As I said earlier, the reduction in space would be from 534 parking spaces to 512.
Okay.
With that, let me look at the design plan.
Does it say how many spots Walmart would be adding for the pickup?
So I think when it references those reduction in parking spaces, I believe it's all parking spaces for Walmart specifically, and not
Gotcha.
any adjacent lots near
Okay.
Trading Square.
If you look on packet page 42, and Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like that's the diagram showing the
The footprint expansion.
building addition and the modification of the parking. Is that correct?
Yes.
And those spaces would be for pickup on that west-hand side, left-hand side? Is that correct? So by my count, it's 40 or so compared to, I think they have about 9 or 10 spaces right now, roughly.
Yes, so.
I do have a question. Once you do turn into that Walmart parking lot, and I noticed there's only one way, and then it's, either a right turn to Starbucks and Little Caesars. Could they make that into a turn lane and straight lane? Also, if that's gonna be, so when you're turning into Walmart off of, what is that, Washington? So, yeah, so once
Second entrance?
yeah, that second entrance, could you also make that a straight, so a turn and a straight? So it almost turns into a two-way instead of just making a one-lane turn to go to Starbucks.
It's a first entrance, I guess.
Yeah. it
First
would-
entrance, you have an option to go straight or make a right.
So it's on the last page of the site plan. So if we're looking at the map where that red circle is, second building, there's a turn, a right turn. So that's okay for, people going to Starbucks, Little Caesars and whatever else is over there. But if we can also have VDOT or whoever make it go straight also, giving that indication to go straight. If that makes sense.
Commissioner is talking about if you enter the first entrance from first Trading Square, and then you can go either straight or you can make a right to the marketplace on the right hand side. So can you make it shared through right?
Okay. We can certainly make the suggestion, since it is private property there. That would be something that the Prince William County Planning Commission would discuss, but we can certainly make the suggestion.
Just because more cars are going to be coming through that area.
Mhm.
So instead of having one lane, if they could have, two lanes going straight in, but you still could make that right turn.
And they might. I'm no traffic engineer.
I'm not either.
We're graced by good ones here. They might keep it so it's right turn only, because as you're like leaving where the Starbucks is and everything, making that left back on there might be easier. I mean, I don't know.
I think so if we can have continuous right,
Uh-huh.
so that they can just make a right turn at the next one as well.
Okay.
You see that the combination of people making a right will be distributed equally.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, so we'll definitely put in that suggestion, as well as the suggestion of the pickup signage on Route 55, so that more users will know to go to that second entrance that leads you straight back.
based on their light gray color marking, it seems like it's a good idea to have continuous right over there. Because otherwise the two people will be then fading into that makes an issue on the James Marshall Highway.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or concerns that we can share?
Well, I just want to, speak to it, knowing that, a lot of people in this town do go to Walmart a lot, and a lot of them may even do pickup. Of course, as it currently stands right now in the pickup, as you know, it's right on the line next to the Kohl's. And we just talked about backing up vehicles. That, when you're making that pickup and you're backing up, it can become a little dicey, with the Kohl's parking lot there. So it seems to me that they've utilized the excess space on the other side of the building, for expanded pickup operations. I also think, distribute the traffic. You'll notice, and even when I'm going to the Walmart, right, that first entrance closest to town, it's never really fun entrance because you can do with people and parking and all this stuff. And usually I like to go on the left-hand side of the site. Usually, again, and as that one currently stands, it's kind of wrapping around the bank that's there. You have that right turn right into the parking. And it could seem that this would also, the right turn would stay, and then through to the delivery and pickup options would, again, better utilize that capacity there on that side, sort of even, redistribute the traffic. It's also further away from that, major intersection, a signalized intersection near town, that hopefully can better balance out the traffic. So I do think this is a great use. And it also, if you're near that pickup area and, and you could park near there, kind of puts you equidistant between the two major anchor stores there, between the Walmart and the Home Depot. So I think this is a beneficial improvement, and I think it will better redistribute the traffic and spread it out, especially further away from town, because certainly even on Saturdays, 15 and 55, that intersection can get kind of wild trying to get back into town from there. So I think this will help kind of move along that idea. There are two entrances to the shopping center, and I think they'll be better distributed, and they'll appear further away from the town. And I appreciate what the other commission members have said about internal markings as needed and signage on that front as well. Again, and you also have a nice, shared use path along that way there too. So I think the signage could help in a way too for other modes. So I just wanted to comment and say I think this seems to be a good movement, and I appreciate the other comments from my fellow commissioners.
No further comments?
Thomas and I will work together and get our town comments sent over to Prince William County prior August 20th. So if you have anything else that pops up, let us know as soon as you can, and we'll include it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and send our comments on over.
Thank you. Now we'll go next to the next agenda item, the change of meeting day.
Okay, so I took a straw vote from Planning Commission on changing the meeting date. I checked the Planning Commission bylaws. It does not state that you have to have a meeting on the third Monday of the month. You can have as long as there's a monthly meeting. I went to town council and got their blessing to change the meeting date from the third Monday to the second Tuesday. This is in order to accommodate Mr. Young, who has taken on a teaching position, and wanted to really stay on the Planning Commission. So right now we just need a motion to change the meeting date from the third Monday to the second Tuesday. And you can decide whether you want to start this in August, which would be your August 13th meeting, or if you want to wait till September.
Thank you. And I wanted to speak briefly, if I could, on it, noting that the recent edition of the Haymarket Herald came out for July through September of 2024. And I know that has gone out before this discussion has occurred, certainly. And I noted from that the Planning Commission meetings are set on that. My concern would be from a notice perspective, given that this is through September, would you still have to do a proper notification if the date were to change in August, September? And if you were to do that, would that require, further mailings as well? Or how would that stand?
We would put it out on our website. We would put it out on Facebook, and we now have a app called GoGov, which we hope that the citizens are going to start and utilize. And we would notify people of the meeting date change effective then. So we would use all of our platforms that was available to us to change it.
Also, I would say externally, Thomas and I have already spoken about gathering a list of all of our current ongoing projects with the developers, property owners, engineering firms, and sending out an email notification to all of them who currently have an application or one that may be upcoming, and just go ahead and notify them of the change and what the new due dates were for materials when agendas would go out. So we're also looking at it from that perspective of getting applications in on time.
And I guess the only outstanding question would be for those that maybe only get the Haymarket Herald, only by mail, they're not with any of these other platforms. What would be how would the announcement go on that front? I mean, would there be more paper sent out and mailings, or, how would that be covered, I guess, to be in proper accordance with requirements?
We could certainly do another mailing. It would be something that we would just kind of run through the town council based on the expenditure and ensure that they're okay with that. We can also get maybe even some yard signs put up here at Town Hall that just says, notice Planning Commission date is being moved, and something like that, that people would maybe drive by or walk by quite often. But also we can do our best sharing it through the HOA emails. And then for those who aren't in HOAs, try to get it through some of our council members to share with neighbors and go through that route.
And thank you for that as well, because again, my concern had been, since the printing had gone out, to say, well, let's start in October, but I'll defer to what the commission decide is best on that front. But I was just, that would have been my only concern, was saying, well, this has been printed and sent,
Understandable.
and and not cause any further expenditures or anything like that. Maybe starting it in October, but I'll defer to what the commission would prefer. That was just my thoughts on that front.
Whatever you all want to do, whenever you want to start this is up to you.
I'm new here, so it's hard for me to kind of make, but it sounds like they've done their kind of, I know the Herald's gone out, and it sounds like they have it pretty under control of where it's how it's going to be put out there and perceived. So I'm okay with August. It's, I'm flexible with, I want Mr. Young here to be able to attend this. So I'm for the August 13th.
I'm also would like to have the change of dates sooner than later. And maybe the notification can go in a pamphlet format or something. We don't have that many homes, so I don't see that cost being much of an issue.
And on that note, are you free at leisure to share about when Mr. Young is starting his appointment? Did he specify the date, or is it allowed?
I think his classes start in September.
Okay.
So the packet page 44, there is a draft motion at the bottom of the memo. You would just change the effective date from September 10th to August 13th.
Okay. So I moved that the Haymarket Planning Commission moved their monthly meetings from third Monday of the month to the second Tuesday of the month, effective August 13, 2024.
Second on the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll get it off for August 13th.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now turning in the packet to old business.
Yes. So the Blight Drive townhomes that you reviewed last month, we're still working with the applicant for review and comment. We've taken your comments into consideration as well and are working with them to resolve any outstanding items. The comprehensive plan amendment that we held public hearing for is now brought to the town council for public hearing as of July 29th, correct? So those are additionally, this was a few months ago, you approved the town park sidewalk. We have now received 100% submission for that plan. When does construction start? Again? Okay, we have all VDOT approvals. We're still working and we'll get back to you with a construction date and timeline for that. But main point is good news that everything is passed on all outside agency ends and ours. So good news moving forward. Those are all the items I have for old business.
Okay, thank you. And barring any questions, other questions, we'll turn to new business.
Great. We've, in the ARB meetings, I guess I'm functioning as ARB liaison right now too, but in ARB meetings, we've discussed a couple of changes to, we've been overhauling historic district guidelines, and that includes points of reference from the historic district overlay and also the comprehensive plan. The goal is, as the ARB gives me recommendations of how to change the historic district ordinance and overlay requirements, as well as any comprehensive plan requirements, those recommendations will be then brought to you in the coming months for your review and recommendation as well before we move forward with any zoning text amendments or other comprehensive plan amendments. So that's the main item of new business that I have for you all.
Thank you. And again, barring any questions, we'll jump to now ARB updates.
As stated before, the main ARB updates, we had a home exterior refurbishing application. And then other than that, it's been all ARB guidelines revisions and the discussion about the historic district.
Okay, thank you. And again, barring any questions on this one, we'll now turn to the town council updates.
I can do the town council updates for us tonight since council member Bayene is not here. So we started our new fiscal year on July 1st. So just a couple weeks ago. We are working through some of our top priorities, one of those being the park sidewalks. So as Thomas mentioned, we have received full VDOT approval. We are currently, staff is working with the engineer and the contractor for that project to get a full schedule so we can start posting when construction will start and any modifications we might need to do at the park when it comes to being able to utilize it. We're hopeful that we'll have very minimal impact, but of course, with construction going on, we might need to close the park briefly for that. Also going on, we are in full preparations of our summer concert that'll be coming up in August, as well as Haymarket Day. The town council later this month will be holding a very busy work session meeting. At 6 p.m. we will be hearing from VML VACO on the financial report of the town and what our financial standing is, and then looking ahead to what we can be working on project-wise. Then at 7 p.m. on the 29th, we will be having a full public hearing. We have 4 public notices that have gone out, one of which is the updated ordinance for the removal of snow and ice on town-owned sidewalks. So that is going to be a new addition. We heard back from citizens over the last couple winters about the lack of snow removal on Washington Street specifically, and the concerns for walkability. And so we discussed it with the town council, and we will be moving forward with the town maintaining all of Washington Street corridor within our limits. We will be, of course, pre-treating as necessary and then taking care of the snow and ice removal after storm events. But again, that will be up for a public hearing there on July 29th. So we encourage everybody to take a look at it. It is a big step for us to go through with that. So we are looking forward to finally addressing that concern. And then lastly, the other biggest item that we've had this month is the trash has switched contractors. So we have switched from Republic Services to American Disposal Services. For such a big change and a big switchover, it has been pretty seamless when it comes to working with American. They've been very responsive and very excellent contractor to work with. Alexandra is handling all of those citizen concerns, and they're getting us immediate responses. We are still working with Republic to pick up the final cans that are floating around through town. So we thank all of our citizens for being patient with us as we are working on that. If you or your neighbors or anybody you see still has a Republic can, just encourage them to please put it out on the road and don't take it back up their driveway. Just leave it there. And we're coordinating between our maintenance division and Republic to get them all collected and get them out of here. So that's been a bit of an undertaking there. If there's any questions for council updates, I'm happy to answer or follow up with you at a later date. Any questions?
Well, thank you for that, especially with the trash pickup and switchover. It's been interesting to watch and
Yes.
see as we proceed forward on that front. And again, barring any questions to that point, I'd like to entertain a motion, if anyone would like to make, to adjourn the meeting, unless there's anything else to discuss.
Motion.
A second? Do you have? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much.